stay with the investigation by the SIU into the Free State's Premier's office. We are now joined by a former member of the Free State Legislature and current ActionSA leader in the Free State, Ms. Patricia Kopane. Very good evening to you, ma'am. Thanks very much for joining us here on SABC News.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having me tonight, especially to come and discuss this interesting issue.
Yeah. All right.
I've been fighting for so many years.
Yeah. Let's get into it then. I mean, we were still sort of stuck on the issue of the asbestos case pertaining to Ace Magashule. Now we're looking into something else. The SIU now probing from the terms of 2017 to 2023, where perhaps stipends had been paid out to students illegally, or that these students were not approved or entitled to them. What do you make of this? I mean, you're saying that this is something that you had been, in fact, fighting for. So let's talk about your reaction then.
Firstly, let me say this investigation or the proclamation made by the president of our country, Cyril Ramaphosa, is being long overdue. I remember since 2009 being a member of parliament until last year, September, we've been complaining about so many maladministration in the office of the former premier, that is Mr. Ace Magashule.
Yeah.
Because we do believe that during his leadership, this province has tended to be the face of corruption, or even the monument of corruption. We have seen the poor governance. We have seen how the state resources were used to benefit the politician in his office. And what was even worse is how he centralized power in his office, because everything was done in his office. You know, one of the classic example of how the maladministration was entrenched in his office. Yeah. You remember the Estina Dairy project was one of the tender that was signed right in his office. Even this issue of the international student program to be given the bursary, it was one of the programs that we have long complained about it. It started in his office, but it is clear that it is how his office managed to take the money from the Free State province to outside the country. Because currently we have never even seen students who come from those. We don't even the country, we just overheard.
So what's particularly interesting about, you know, what you're saying here this evening, and you know, you're kind of directly pointing at Ace Magashule, but you know, when we spoke to the SIU earlier, they said, listen, we don't investigate persons, we don't investigate people, we investigate government institutions. But you seem clear on the fact that, in fact, it is Ace Magashule who is being targeted in this investigation. But I also then want to point out, interestingly, that this investigation by the SIU is to cover from 2017 to 2023. Ace Magashule was premier from 2009 to 2017. So it almost falls out, you know, of his ambit, unless you're going to focus on that year of 2017, which would have been his final year as the premier. What do you make then of that, and what the SIU has said in terms of, look, we don't investigate people?
Definitely, I think what is important here, we need to remember the period that you just explained. Yeah, there are two premiers that were in office. I did state that Ace Magashule was in office since 2009. Yeah. Well, I became a member of parliament. Yes. And Sisi Ntombela just became a premier after he left. Yes. But why we cannot exonerate Mayor Ntombela? Ntombela, she was given, I do understand that she inherited the West Province by that time, but she was given the opportunity, you know, to reverse all the damages that were done by his predecessor. But unfortunately, when she came in office, she actually continued with what Ace Magashule was doing. Are you
insinuating that she was a lackey? Are you insinuating she was a lackey of Ace Magashule, a comrade of Ace Magashule?
Definitely. Ntombela, there's nothing that is more important that I remember of her. The people of the Free State, they don't even have confidence in her or even in her party. We're not even surprised today she's not even a premier today, because so many things happened also during her, while she was still in her office. I can make a small example. While she was in office, we just have an incident of Fontaine, where about 150 families lost their belongings and everything. She did nothing. Only 3 houses were built. 1 house is occupied. People are still destitute today. They have nothing. The very same Ace Magashule, 255 million was supposed to have removed the roof, the houses that were roofed with asbestos. But the tender, that 250 is gone. We know that the matter is before the court of law. Next to the very same places where there's asbestos, roofs still exist. Yeah. There are about 526 unit houses that have been built. 260 million is spent. The place is just a white elephant. It's just being dilapidated, but people of the Free State, they don't have houses. The same as Tina, it was meant to benefit the people of the Free State, but nobody in the Free State benefited. The Guptas benefited, the politicians benefited. In this province, we know that is where the website was created for an amount of 45 million. That website, it was created during Ace Magashule's time. It was never operational. Here in the Springfontein, I was there with the president of ActionSA, Herman Mashaba, where the municipality Kopane, they've budgeted 9 million to build the sports ground, and 7 million was used, but there is no sports ground. There is nothing there. People are still left without a sports ground.
Right. Let's stick to what this conversation is about, which is the SIU's investigation. What would your reaction be if it was in fact former Premier Sisi Ntombela who ultimately took the fall, given the fact that this investigation primarily sticks to the time that she would have been in the office of the Premier, given the fact that starts at 2017? I mean, it looks as though ultimately they will be looking more into the time that she would have been in office. What would your reaction then be to that, should the SIU say, in fact, it was during the tenure of Sisi Ntombela that most of these things happened that you speak to?
Let me say this. I would like to see the SIU extending their investigation into the period when Ace Magashule was in office, and into the time when Sisi Ntombela was in office.
Are you surprised that it didn't start? It's not from 2009. Are you surprised that it wasn't extended from prior to 2017?
Actually, what is happening here? This is a political gimmick of the ANC.
All right.
Because during my time since 2009, being in Parliament until last year, all these issues, we've complained about it, because now the ANC, they want to get rid of Ace Magashule. It's only now they remember, oh, there are people complaining about Estina. There are people complaining about the school bursaries that were given to the connected one. Oh, there are still people complaining about, the Fontaine, that people never did anything. There's 195. We have a metro here in the Free State, Mangaung. Yeah. Mangaung is under national administration. Nothing is happening. Mangaung, there's no service delivery at all. Under their leadership, it is just corruption. There are municipalities here in the Free State like Kopane, Machabeng, Malutia Pofung, where people stay without water for weeks, where there's no sanitation at all in this province. The roads are so bad, you can't travel, you cannot do anything in this province. Yeah. Some of these municipalities, the employees, they cannot even get their salaries that they've worked for, even to pay for their pension. Here in now, what is happening during the time of the time of both Sisi Ntombela and Ace Magashule, the irregular expenditure have increased from 7.6 billion now to 9 billion. In this province, from Ace Magashule's time and Sisi Ntombela, the ESCOM is owned about 17 billion. The water board is owed about 7 billion. That is the situation in the Free State. So the people of the Free State, they don't benefit any opportunity from this government.
Yeah.
The ANC that is between the time of Ace Magashule and Sisi Ntombela, they failed to break the cycle of poverty. Unemployment is at 48%. People are literally not working. I was in Springfontein. It's a small city on the N1. But you know what is the sad part about it? Where the stadium was, sports ground was supposed to have been built.
Yeah.
The people there, they rely on the social grant. There is not even a pep store or any shop where they can get access their money.
Okay. Ms. Kopane, I'm going to have to leave it there. We're out of time. All right, we're out of time. Thanks very much for chatting to us this evening. We certainly do appreciate your time here on SABC News. That is the former member of the Free State Legislature and current ActionSA leader in the Free State, Patricia Kopane.